the 4,000 years from the reign of Ru to the 26th year of the life of Ehud. And in the days of Ru the Mesrei, who are the Egyptians, appointed their first king. His name was Puntos, and he reigned over them 68 years. And in the days of Ru a king reigned in Sheba, Saba, and in Ophir, and in Havilah. And there reigned in Saba 60 of the daughters of Saba. And for many years women reigned in Saba, until the kingdom of Solomon, the son of David. And the children of Ophir, that is, Cindy appointed to be their Lophran, who built Ophir with stones of gold. Now, all the stones that are in Ophir are of gold. And the children of Havilah appointed to be their king Havel, who built Havilah, that is, Hend, Indiadad, and Ru died, being 239 years old, and Serug his son, and Nahor and Terah, buried him in Aran, the city which he built after his own name. And Serug lived 30 years and begot Nahor, and all the days of his life were 230 years. And in the days of Serug the worship of idols entered the world. And in his days the children of men began to make themselves graven images, and it was at this time that the introduction of idols into the world took place. For the children of men were scattered all over the earth, and they had neither teachers nor lawgivers, and no one to show them the way of truth wherein they should walk, and for this reason they became confused and fell into error. Some of them through their error adored the heavens, and some of them worshipped the sun, and moon and stars, and some of them the earth, and wild beasts, and birds, and creeping things, and trees, and stones, and the creatures of the sea, and the waters, and the winds. Now Satan had blinded their eyes, so that they might walk in the darkness of error, because they had no hope of a resurrection. For when one of them died they used to make an image of him, and set it up upon his grave, so that the remembrance of his appearance might not pass from before their eyes. And error having been sown broadcast in all the earth, the land became filled with idols in the form of men and women. And then Serug died, being 230 years old, and Nahor, and Terah, and Abraham his sons, buried him in Sargon, the city which he built after his own name. And Nahor was 29 years old when he begot Terah. And in the days of Nahor, in the 70th year of his life, when God looked upon the children of men, and saw that they were worshipping idols, a great earthquake took place, and all their houses were overturned and fell down. But the people did not understand within themselves, and they added to their wickedness. And Nahor died when he was 147 years old, and Terah his son and Abraham buried him. Terah was 75 years old when he begot Abraham. And Terah was 75 years old when he begat Abraham. And in the days of Terah, in his 90th year, sorcery appeared on the earth in the city of which Haran, the son of Abar, built. Now, there was in the city a certain man who was very rich, and he died at that time. And his son made an image of him in gold, and set it up upon his grave, and he appointed there a young man to keep guard over it. And Satan went and took up his abode in that image, and he spake to that youth, i.e. the son of the rich man, after the manner of his father. And thieves went into his house, and took everything that the youth possessed, and he went out to the tomb of his father weeping. And Satan spake unto him, saying, Weep not in my presence, but go and fetch thy little son, and slay him here as a sacrifice to me, and forthwith everything which thou hast lost shall be returned to me here. And straightway the youth did as Satan told him, and he slew his son, and bathed in his blood. And Satan went forth immediately from that image of gold, and entered into the youth, and taught him sorcery, and enchantments, and divination, and the lore of the Chaldeans, and how to tell fortunes, and how to forecast events, and how to foretell destinies. And behold, from that time the children of men began to sacrifice their sons to devils, and to worship idols, for the devils entered into the images, and took up their abodes therein. And in the 100th year of the life of Nahor, when God saw that the children of men were sacrificing their sons to devils, and worshipping idols, he opened the storehouses of the wind, and the gate of the whirlwind, and a blast of wind went forth in all the earth. And it uprooted the images, and the places where offerings were made to devils, and it swept together the idols, and the images, and the pillared buildings in a heap, and piled up great mounds of earth over them, and they are there to this day. Now to this blast of wind learned men have given the name of wind flood, but certain who have heard have said, these mounds existed already in the days of the flood of waters. Now those who have said these things have erred greatly from the truth, for before the flood of waters, there were no idols in the earth, and it was not because of idols that the flood came, but because of the fornication of the daughters of Cain. And, moreover, at that time there were no men on this earth, which was a waste and a desert. And our fathers were cast forth in days of old, as it were, into exile, because they were not worthy to be neighbors of paradise. And through the ark they were driven forth to the mountains of Cardo, and from there they were scattered about throughout all the earth. For these mounds came into being because of idols, and in them are buried all the idols of that time, and all the devils also who dwell in them are in these mounds, and there is no mound which hath not devils in it. Nimrod the fire worshipper, and Yonton, son of Noah. And in the days of Nimrod, the mighty man, or giant, a fire appeared which ascended from the earth, and Nimrod went down, and looked at it, and worshipped it, and he established priests to minister there, and to cast incense into it. From that day the Persians began to worship fire, and they do so to this day. And Sison, the king, found a spring of water in Dragan, and he made a white horse and set it over it, and those who bathed in the water used to worship the horse foal. And from that time the Persians began to worship that horse. According to the book of Adam, the horse was made of gold. And Nimrod went to Yokdorah of Nod, and when he arrived at the lake or sea of Atraz, he found there Yonton, the son of Noah. A marginal note in the Syriac MS. Adds, Noah begot this Yonton after the flood, and he honored him in many things, and sent him to the east to dwell there. And Nimrod went down and bathed in the lake, and he came to Yonton and did homage unto him. And Yonton said, Thou art a king, doest thou homage unto me? And Nimrod said unto him, It is because of thee that I have come down here, and he remained with him for 3 years. And Yonton taught Nimrod wisdom, and the art of revelation, divining, and he said unto him, Come not back again to me. And when Nimrod went up from the east, and began to practice the art of divining, very many men marveled at him. And when Ardashir the priest who ministered to the fire that ascended from the earth, saw that Nimrod was practicing these exalted courses, he entreated the devil, who appeared in connection with that fire, to teach him the wisdom of Nimrod. And as the devils were in the habit of destroying those who came nigh unto them by sin, the devil said unto the priest, A man cannot become a priest and a Magian until he hath known carnally his mother, and his daughter, and his sister. And Idashir the priest did this, and from that time the priests, and the Magians, and the Persians take their mothers, and their sisters, and their daughters to wife. And this Idashir, the Magian, was the first to begin to study the signs of the zodiac, and omens concerning luck, and fate, and happenings, and motions of the eyes and eyelids, as well as all the other arts of the learning of the Chaldees. Now, all this learning is the error of devils, and those who practice it shall receive, together with the devils, the doom of the judgment. And because this art of divination, which was employed by Nimrod, was taught to him by Yonton, none of the orthodox doctors have suppressed it, nay, they have even practiced it. Now the Persians call it Juliana, i.e. revelation, and the Romans Astromian, i.e. astronomy. But that knowledge which the Magians have, viz. astrology, is sorcery and the teaching of devils. There are some who say that it doth indeed teach concerning luck and happenings, i.e. future events, and fate, but these are in error. Now Nimrod builded strong cities in the east, Babel, and Nineveh, and Rasan, Razain, and Selach, Seleucia, and Ctesiphon, and Adherbagan, and he made 3 fortresses. The history of Abraham. And Terah, the father of Abraham, lived 250 years, and he died, and Abraham and Lot buried him in Haran. And there God spoke unto Abraham, and said unto him, Get thee forth from thy land, and from among thy people, and come to the land which I will show thee. And Abraham took his household, Sarah his wife, and Lot, his brother's son, and he went up to the land of the Amorites, and he was 75 years old when he crossed the desert from the Euphrates. And he was 80 years old when he pursued the kings, and rescued Lot, his brother's son. On the day of the birth of Abraham the house shone with a bright light. Many people fell down, and there was a cry in a loud voice, which said, Woe is me! Woe is me! For he who shall crush my kingdom hath been born. And he who cried out wept, and described the events which should take place, saying, It is he who shall burn down my abode. And there were among the people certain men who said, Kill this child forthwith. And those who spake thus knew well that grace would be given to Abraham. And God set mercy in the heart of the father of Abraham, and he said to the Satans, Whence come ye, O ye who tell me that I should kill my son who is a gracious gift of God? And he reared the child. And Abraham was circumcised by the hand of Gabriel and Michael, who helped him. From the book of the mysteries of heaven and earth. Abraham and Melchizedek. And at that time Abraham had no son, because Sarah was barren. And when he returned from the battle of the kings, the agency of God called him, and he crossed the mountain of Yabhos, Jebus, and Melchizedek, the king of Shalem, the priest of the Most High God, went forth to meet him. And when Abraham saw Melchizedek, he made haste and fell upon his face, and did homage to him, and he rose up from the ground and embraced him, and kissed him, and was blessed by him, and Melchizedek blessed Abraham. And Abraham gave Melchizedek tithes of everything which he had with him, and Melchizedek made him to participate in the holy mysteries of the bread of the offering and the wine of redemption. And after Melchizedek had blessed him and made him to participate in the holy mysteries, God spake unto Abraham and said unto him, Thy reward is exceedingly great. Since Melchizedek hath blessed thee and hath made thee to partake of bread and wine with him, I also will assuredly bless thee, and I will assuredly multiply thy seed. And when Abraham was 86 years old, Ishmael was born to him by Hagar, the Egyptian woman, whom Pharaoh had given to Sarah as a handmaiden. Now Sarah was the sister of Abraham on the father's side, because Terah took 2 women to wife. When Yonu, the mother of Abraham, died, Terah took to wife a woman whose name was Nahariath, or Shalmath, or Tonah, or Tadaph, and of her Sarah was born. It was because of this fact that Abraham said, She is my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. The birth of Isaac. And Abraham was 99 years old when God went into his house and gave Sarah a son, and he was 100 years old when Isaac was born to him. And Isaac was 13 years old when his father took him and went up to the mountain of Yabhos, Jebus, to Melchizedek, the priest of God, the Most High. Now Mount Yabhos is the mountain of the Amorites, and in that place the cross of Christ was set up, and on it grew the tree which held the ram that saved Isaac. And that same place is the center of the earth, and the grave of Adam, and the altar of Melchizedek, and Golgotha, and Karkaphta, and Jephthah, Gabbatha. And there David saw the angel bearing the sword of fire. There, too, Abraham took up Isaac his son for a burnt offering, and he saw the cross and Christ and the redemption of our father Adam. The tree, i.e. thicket, was a symbol of the cross of Christ our Lord, and the ram caught in its branches was the mystery of the manhood of the Word, the only one. And, because of this, Paul cried out and said, If they had only known it, they were not crucifying the Lord of glory. Let the mouths of the heretics be stopped who in their madness impute passibility to the eternal God. Now, when Christ was 8 days old, Joseph, the betrothed of Mary, rose up to circumcise the child according to the law, and he circumcised him according to the custom that was the law. In like manner Abraham took up his son as an offering, but he at the same time foresaw in this act the crucifixion of Christ. And this thing did Christ openly proclaim before the multitudes of the Jews, saying, Abraham, your father, wanted to see my days, and he saw and was glad. Abraham saw the day of the redemption of Adam, and he saw and rejoiced, and it was revealed unto him that Christ would suffer on behalf of Adam. The founding of Jerusalem. And in that same year in which Abraham offered up his son as an offering, in that same I say Jerusalem was built, and the beginning of the building thereof was in this wise. Melchizedek having appeared and shown himself to men, the kings of the nations heard his history, and they gathered together and came unto him. The names of the kings who built Jerusalem: Abimelech, king of Gader; Amraphel, king of Senir; Ariach, king of Delaser, Sik; Kedorlaomer, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam; Tidal, king of the Gilead; Bera, king of Sodom; Bersha, king of Gomorrah; Shinab, king of Adhama; Shemeber, king of Zeboim; Salak, king of Ba circumflex La circumflex. Tabhak, king of Damascus; Bacter, king of the desert. These 12 kings gathered together and came to Melchizedek, king of Shalem, the priest of the Most High God. And when they saw his appearance and heard his words, they entreated him to go with them. And he said unto them, I am not able to go from this place to any other. And they took counsel together about building him a city, and said to each other, Verily, he is the king of the whole earth, and the father of all kings. And they built him a city and made Melchizedek to live in it, and Melchizedek called the name thereof Jerusalem. And when Magog, the king of the south, heard of this, he came to him, and saw his appearance, and spake unto him, and gave him offerings and gifts. And Melchizedek was held in honor by all, and he was called the father of kings. Melchizedek. Now, as concerning what the apostle said, there was no beginning to his days, and no end to his life, it has been thought by simple folk, that he was not a man at all, and in their error they have said concerning him, that he was God. God forbid that there should have been no beginning to his days or end to his life. The apostle spake thus because when Shem, the son of Noah, took away Melchizedek from his parents, no word is said as to how old he was when he went up from the east, and it is not said how old he was at the time of his departure from this world. Now, he was the son of Malach, the son of Arpachshad, the son of Shem, and he was not the son of one of the patriarchs. And the apostle said that none of his father's family had ever ministered at the altar. The name of his father is not written in the genealogies because Matthew and Luke, the evangelists, only wrote down the names of the fathers in chief, i.e. patriarchs, and for this reason neither the name of his father nor the name of his mother is known. The apostle did not say that he had no parents but only that they were not written down in Matthew and Luke. Cumros. And in the 100th year of the life of Abraham there was a king in the east whose name was Cumros. He built Shemesht, Samosata, after the name of his son Shemeshto, and Claudias, after the name of his daughter Khalid, and Piran, after the name of his son Poran. Nimrod founds Nisibis, Haran and Edessa. And in the 50th year of the life of Ru, Nimrod went up and built Nisibis, and Edessa, and Haran, which is Edessa. And Haranath, the wife of Dason, the priest of the mountain, surrounded it with a wall, and the people of Haran made a statue of her and worshipped her. And Baltan, who was given to Tammuz, Tammuz now because Belshazzar loved her, Tammuz fled before him, set fire to Haran and burned it. The death of Sarah. And when Sarah, the wife of Abraham, died, Abraham took to wife Keturah, the daughter of Bacter, the king of the desert. And there were born unto him by her Zamran, and Yakshan, and Madhan, and Median, and Ashbak, and Sho. A marginal note in the Syriac MS says, these sons of Keturah are called sons of Daran by the prophet. And from these are sprung the Arabs. Isaac and Rebekah. And when Isaac was 40 years old, Eliezer, a son of the house of Abraham, went down and brought Rebekah from the east, and Isaac took her to wife. And when Abraham died, Isaac buried him by the side of Sarah. And when Isaac was 60 years old, Rebekah became with child of Esau and Jacob. And being sorely afflicted, she went to Melchizedek, and he prayed over her and said unto her, 2 are in thy womb, and 2 peoples shall be removed from thy loins, that is to say, shall go forth from thy womb. 1 nation shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall be in subjection to the younger, that is to say, Esau shall be in subjection to Jacob. The founding of Jericho. And in the 67th year of the life of Isaac, Jericho was built by 7 kings, namely, the king of the Hittites, and the king of the Amorites, and the king of the Girgantes, and the king of the Jebusites, and the king of the Canaanites, and the king of the Hivites, and the king of the Perizzites, and each of them surrounded it with a wall. Now the son of Mizraim, the king of the Egyptians, had founded Jericho in olden time. And Ishmael made a mill of the hands, i.e. a handmill, in the desert, a mill of slavery, i.e. a mill to be worked by slaves. Jacob's ladder. And in the 103rd year of his life Isaac blessed Jacob, who was 40 years old, and having received the blessing from his father, he went down into the desert of Beersheba, and lay down to sleep there, and when he was lying down, he took a stone and made a pillow of it. And he saw in his dream, and behold, a ladder was set upon the earth. And the top of it was in the heavens. And the angels of God were going up and coming down, and the Lord stood at the top of it. And Jacob woke up from his sleep and said, this is truly the house of God. And he took the stone of his pillow and made it an altar, and he anointed it with oil. And he vowed a vow and said, of everything which I have will I tithe for this stone. Now, it is manifest to those who possess understanding that the ladder which Jacob saw symbolizeth the cross of our Redeemer. And the angels who were going up and down were the ministers of Zechariah and Mary, and the Magi, and the shepherds. And the Lord who was standing at the top of the ladder symbolized Christ, who stood on the cross that he might go down to redeem us. Jacob and baptism. And when God had shown the blessed Jacob the cross of Christ by means of the ladder of the angels, and the coming down of Christ for our redemption, and the church, the house of God, and the altar by means of the stone, and the offerings by means of the tithes, and the anointing by means of the oil, Jacob again went down to the east, that there God might show him baptism. And Jacob looked, and saw, and beheld 3 flocks of sheep lying down by a well, and there was a great stone placed over the mouth of the well. And Jacob drew nigh, and rolled away the stone from the mouth of the well, and watered the sheep of his mother's brother. And having watered the flocks, he took Rachel and kissed her. Now by well the blessed Jacob indicated, or depicted, baptism, which was covered over, i.e. hidden, from the races of men, and generations and tribes. And the 3 flocks of sheep which were lying down by the well are a type of the 3 divisions, and 3 groups who come for baptism, namely, men and women and children. And that Jacob saw Rachel coming with the flocks, and that he neither embraced her, nor kissed her until he had rolled away the stone from the well, and she had watered the flocks, is in accordance with the law of the sons of the church, who neither embrace nor kiss the Lamb of Christ until baptism hath opened the way. They go down into the waters, and put on strength from them, and then the sons of the church embrace and kiss. And as Jacob served with Laban for 7 years, and the woman he loved was not given to him, so also was it with the Jews, who served Pharaoh, king of Egypt, in slavery, and went forth. For the covenant of the church, the bride of Christ, was not given unto them, but that covenant which was old, and worn out, and of no effect. Now the eyes of Leah, the first woman whom Jacob took to wife, were hateful, whilst the eyes of Rachel were beautiful, and her countenance was radiant. A covering, i.e. veil, was laid over the face of the first covenant, so that the children of Israel might not see the beauty thereof. As for the second covenant, it is holy light. Jacob's sons. The death of Isaac. Jacob was 77 years old when he received the blessing of Isaac, his father, and he was 89 years old when he begot Reuben, his firstborn, by Leah. The sons of Jacob are these: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. These are the sons of Leah. Joseph and Benjamin were the sons of Rachel. Gad and Asher were the sons of Zilpah, the handmaiden of Leah. Dan and Naphtali were the sons of Bilhah, the handmaiden of Rachel. And after 20 years Jacob returned to Isaac his father. And all the days of the life of Isaac were 180 years, until the 31st year of the life of Levi, and he died in the 120th year of the life of Jacob. 23 years after Jacob went up from Haran, Joseph was sold to the Midianites. He was sold during the lifetime of Isaac, and they mourned for him. When Isaac died, Jacob and Esau, his sons, buried him with Abraham and Sarah. 7 years later Rebekah died, and was buried with Abraham, and Isaac, and Sarah, and Rachel died, and was buried with them. And Judah, the son of Jacob, took unto himself to wife Shu circumflex, Shua, the Canaanitess, and his father was grieved, because he had taken to wife a woman of the seed of Canaan. And Jacob said unto Judah, May the Lord God of our fathers Abraham and Isaac not permit the seed of Canaan to be mingled with our families. And there were born unto Judah by Shua, the Canaanite woman, Onan, and Shelah. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, Tamar, and he consorted with her unnaturally, and God put him to death. And Judah gave Tamar to Onan, and as soon as his seed became available for Tamar he wasted it, and him also did God put to death. Thus, God did not permit the seed of Canaan to mingle with the seed of Jacob, even as Jacob prayed God that the seed of Canaan, the firstborn of the lascivious Ham, might not be mingled among the generations of the fathers. And God made Tamar go out to the roadside, and Judah lay with her in the passion of fornication, and she conceived and brought forth Perez, Pharez, and Zerah. Jacob in Egypt. And Jacob and all his descendants went down into Egypt to Joseph, and he lived in Egypt 17 years, and Jacob died, being 140 years old, and Joseph was 56 years old when his father died, in the 12th year of Kahath. And the wise physicians of Pharaoh embalmed him, and Joseph took him up to Canaan, and buried him with Abraham and Isaac his father. The genealogies of the tribes and the children of Israel. Now there are certain doctors who trace the genealogies of the tribes from the death of Jacob, and who mix them together, but they do not do this in the light of knowledge. They set in the midst 2 genealogies, one of the tribes, and the other of the children of Israel. Now affix thine attention on these generations, and how they became mixed together. When they went forth from Egypt, Judah begot Pharez, Pharez begot Hezron, Hezron begot Aram, Aram begot Amminadab, Amminadab begot Nahshon, and Nahshon was he who became prince of Judah. And Amminadab gave the sister of Nahshon to her, so in the text, but read Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, of her was born Phinehas, the great priest, who prayed, and the plague was stayed. Behold, I have shown thee that from Amminadab, the priesthood of the children of Israel was transmitted by the sister of Nahshon, and the kingdom by Nahshon her brother. Observe also that the priesthood and the kingdom were transmitted by Judah to the children of Israel. And Nahshon begot Shelah, that is to say, Salmon, and Shelah begot Boaz. Observe now that the kingdom went forth from Boaz and Ruth, the Moabitess, for the old man Boaz took Ruth to wife, so that Lot, the son of Abraham's brother, might have participation in the transmission of the kingdom. And God did not deprive the righteous man Lot of the reward of his labor, because he had suffered in exile with Abraham, and he received the angels of God in peace. And that the righteous man Lot might not be reviled because he slept with his daughters, God granted that the royal succession might be maintained by the seed of both, and that Christ should be born of the seed of Lot and Abraham. And from the seed of Ruth, the Moabitess, Obed was born, and from Obed, Jesse, and from Jesse, David, and from David, Solomon. These are the descendants of Ruth, the Moabitess, the daughter of Lot. And of Na circumflex, the Ammonitess, another daughter of Lot, whom Solomon took to wife, was born Rehoboam, who reigned after Solomon. Solomon. Now Solomon married many wives, 700 free-born women, and 300 concubines, and of the 1,000 women which he took to wife, he had no son except from Naamab the Ammonitess. And why was it that God did not give him a son from these others? It was in order to prevent the wicked seed of the Canaanites, and Jebusites, and Amorites, and Hittites, and Girgasites, and the seed of the peoples whom God hated, from mingling in the succession of the genealogy of Jesus Christ. The chiefs of Israel born in Egypt. Now the succession of the children of Israel is this: Levi, and Amram, and Moses, and Joshua, the son of Nun, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh. These were born in Egypt. Moses. And when Moses was born he was cast into the river, and Shiphr, in Ethiopic Sephura, the Egyptian woman, the daughter of Pharaoh, took him up, and he lived in the house of Pharaoh for 40 years. And then he killed Pethcom, the Egyptian, the chief of the bakers of Pharaoh. Now this was noised abroad in the house of Pharaoh, after Pharaoh's daughter Machri, who was called Shiphr Mesrin, i.e. trumpet of Egypt, was dead, and Moses was afraid, and he fled to Midian, to Reuel, the Cushite, the priest of Midian. And Moses took to wife Zipporah, the Cushite woman, daughter of the priest, and 2 sons were born to him, Gershom and Eleazar. And in the 2nd year of the life of Moses, Joshua, the son of Nun, was born in Egypt. And Moses was 80 years old when God talked with him from out of the bush, and because of his fear his tongue halted, even as he said to God, Behold, my Lord, from the day wherein thou didst speak to me, I have been halting of tongue. Moses lived in Egypt 40 years, and in the house of the priest of Midian for 2 years, and he passed 40 years in governing the people. And he died at the age of 120 years on Mount Nebo. The successors of Moses. And Joshua, the son of Nun, was the governor of the children of Israel for 27 years. And after the death of Joshua, the son of Nun, Cushan, the wicked Chushan-Rishathaim, was lord over the people for 80 years. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, the brother of Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, was lord over Israel for 40 years. And then the children of Israel were in subjection to the Moabites for 18 years. And Ehud, the son of Jerah, ruled the children of Israel for 80 years. And in the 26th year of his life the 4,000 years came to an end.